I am, and part of that is because I learned about the law, I learned about this constitution here as a grown-up. I learned about the Reagan administration as a child in New Zealand, and of course the United States exports its culture, its movies, its news. So no matter what corner of the world you're in or you're from, you're exposed to the United States from a very young age. And so to then move here, go to grad school here, learn about law, policy and the constitution, as a grown-up, understanding a little bit more about life and having lived in other parts of the world, I'm fascinated by the process. I'm fascinated by the characters. It's important to me that people understand more about the Constitution than they probably do, because it affects our lives, our everyday lives, in very meaningful ways and in ways I think people don't think about. Well, the first thing is I understand that there is fear. I understand that we have seen what happened in Paris, and we've seen what's happened with homegrown terrorists in Boston and in California, San Bernardino. It's understandable that people are afraid. I live here. I have a young child. I concern myself with going through Grand Central Station, with being near Times Square, some of the places where we all know could be potential places where terrorists might want to cause harm. But I think we have to think about who we are as Americans. And I think that Trump is playing into the fears that we have, that have been shown over history to be wrong. We had Japanese in internment camps. Waves of immigrants have been sidelined and discriminated against. I think we have to think and reach down into our hearts and think about who we are as Americans and what we want to stand for. I don't think making people stay out of this country, keeping the American dream away from people on the basis of their religious belief is something that's American. I think it's un-American. Well, I think I can say that in some ways with even more authority, because I chose this country. I grew up on the other side of the world. I've lived in other parts of the world. I've seen the way that government and citizens work together. I've seen differences and balances of power. I am an immigrant and I believe in the American dream, and I don't think the American dream is served by keeping people out on the basis of their religious belief. I love it. I love it. I'm totally nerded out on the elections in 2016. I consume news like it's going out of style, which of course it isn't. I think the GOP race is fascinating for a number of reasons. Not number one, it's huge, obviously, and we have this incredible mix of outsiders from business, from medicine, and then we have the GOP establishment candidates who, prior to some of these candidates, the outsiders coming in, think that their chances were probably going to be quite different. Okay. That way? I don't see it that way, and I'm telling you, if we'd had a Republican president like we did in George W. Bush, who used executive power and specifically executive orders in other ways that Republicans liked, we wouldn't see them jumping up and down about it. This is the Second Amendment. Clearly, gun ownership, gun rights are things that are very important to the GOP candidates, and clearly the electorate, generally speaking. I have to say, though, that Pew Research has shown that the majority of Americans are in support of some kind of gun control. And moreover, this was an executive action, not an order. So what Obama was doing was asking his own federal agencies over which he has jurisdiction to do certain things. Do not. Number one, the Second Amendment is not absolute. We have no absolute rights in the Bill of Rights. That's very important, and there are a number of GOP candidates who know better because they are lawyers, they are constitutional experts. The second thing is what Republicans have been calling for is an enforcement of the laws that are on the books, number one, and number two, the argument being made that this is not a gun problem, this is a mental health problem. Obama's executive action addresses both of those issues. This is Trump being Trump. We have seen that there is nobody that he will not denigrate in order to make himself more attractive as a candidate. Donald Trump doesn't know anything about the Constitution. That's been pretty obvious. He talks about what Obama is doing is unconstitutional. The fact is that it's not. What we're seeing with Ted Cruz is the latest in a long line of, as I said, denigrations or criticisms. It was Obama in 2008 and again in 2012 where Donald Trump was at the forefront of the birther conspiracy. And now, with not much else to go against Ted Cruz on, he is starting the rumblings of the same birther conspiracy.